Going bankrupt and walking home to the wife and kid and having no money neither scared me nor made me depressed in any way. Tell you what, waking up in the morning and putting a suit and tie on to go and work for somebody else in their business, I mean, that would be fucking depressing.
Whatever you want to achieve, with a plan, with consistency and with volume, you just can't fail to be successful.
What was the motivation? Because sometimes it isn't just the chase for money, it is something else.
My motivation is I'd always wanted to be in business because I always say I was never born to be poor. Work in business and make my millions, I didn't know how I was going to do it. Your first millions, your hardest comes from, because it's actually not so much about growth, it's more about...
Welcome to today's episode of Real Estate and Meg. I'm your host, Meghna Vadera, an off-plan real estate specialist here in Dubai. I couldn't be more excited to be joined by Matt Haycox, a serial entrepreneur and investor known for his resilience and diverse business ventures. In his mid-20s, Matt established a chain of businesses generating millions of pounds annually. However, the 2008 financial crisis hit, resulting in the loss of his £45 million fortune. Demonstrating remarkable resilience, Matt rebuilt his wealth by leveraging his expertise as a financial broker and investor. Over the past 25 years, he has provided over £500 million in funding to UK businesses and has invested in successful ventures across various sectors. Beyond his business endeavors, he has set up the Matt Haycox Foundation, which hosts annual events to raise funds for terminally ill children. He also shares his experiences and insights as a speaker and podcaster, aiming to inspire and mentor aspiring entrepreneurs. Matt has built an incredible career by identifying opportunities where others might see obstacles. Not only has he successfully transitioned his business ventures from the UK to Dubai, but he's also become a thought leader, sharing insights like the 21 reasons to move to Dubai and his mantra, change your environment, change your life. Matt's journey is one of resilience, innovation, and reinvention. And today we'll be diving deep into topics like Dubai versus the UK, his advice for entrepreneurs, and his personal experiences that have shaped his success. Get ready to be inspired and take actionable steps towards your own goals. Matt, thank you so much for being here today. Just to start off with, Matt, for those who might not know your story, can you share a bit about your journey to success? What led you to where you are today, and what have been some of the key moments or turning points?
So I've got to condense 30 years into 2 minutes for you, but
Please.
long story short, I'd always wanted to be in business. I mean, my dad had his own business all of my life, so I guess that probably rubbed off on me in some way. I mean, he certainly wasn't pushing me to be in business. I mean, if anything, the opposite. My parents were very pro-education. Not that they were against business, but they were from an era where education was basically paramount to be able to get a job, to be to have respect really. I never wanted to do it because I felt that I could work in business and make my millions. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I thought I can go off, I can avoid school, I can avoid university. So I spent my teenage years buying and selling anything I could get my hands on, from Tamagotchi pets to blow up cushions to toilet rolls in the market. I mean, I did everything. None of it made any money. My first working in proper business was when I was 18. I left school. I did go to university for 6 weeks, convinced my parents to let me leave after 6 weeks to pursue something in business, with the deal that if things didn't work out in a year, I'd go back and do uni the year after and just consider it a gap year. But the business I went to work in was a family business, not my family's business, but a family business that had been around for years, that my dad had invested in, and it was a shit show there. I was working in sales. He was retired at this point and ploughing money in to keep this business afloat. I used to come home every night, banging my hands on the kitchen table because I still used to live with him, saying, "Come on, Dad, they're robbing you. You've got to come back in. You've got to come in this office and get something done." And he just sold his business, and he said to me, "Look, I've had 25 years of business. I've had 30 years of your mother. The last thing I need is any more stress." I said, "Well, if you won't do it, let me do it." Not that I knew what I was doing, but I kind of knew what everybody else shouldn't be doing. So that was my route forward. That I knew kind of what the route backwards shouldn't look like. And he said, "You know what? You can't fuck it up any more than they have done. So go do your worst." Went in the next day, fired everybody, apart from this one little old fellow in the warehouse, and we started that business from scratch. And like I say, it wasn't that I knew what I was doing. I didn't have this big master plan, but I could just see so many of the areas of this business that were just not being run correctly. Whether it was because it was too reliant on one or two big customers, or whether the supply chain was too narrow, or the customer payment terms were too loose. Whatever it may be, it wasn't that I kind of knew, if I run a business, this is the way it should be done. It was just looking at it saying, well, that clearly isn't working. So how can we do it differently? Spent 3 years in that business. It was corporate clothing, uniforms. And after the 3 years, I'd taken it from a 300 grand loss to a 30 grand profit. And it wasn't, that they were big numbers. I mean, even 20 years ago, whenever this was, 23 years ago, 30 grand wasn't a lot of money, but it was just, the learning curve, the concept of the facts, of what I'd been through, what I'd learnt. So I left there. I wanted to go and work in leisure. Again, I didn't know anything about leisure. I just knew that as a 21-year-old guy, surely we all want to run a bar, get drunk, meet girls, and get paid for doing it. And I started to run a couple of bars and pubs to varying degrees of success, and realised that something was missing from the business model we had. We only sold alcohol. The bars and clubs that were successful had multiple streams of income. Whether it was door money or money from food or money from promoters, whatever it may be. So I decided to open a lap dancing club. Again, not that I knew anything about lap dancing clubs, other than the fact that I was spending a lot of time in them. So I decided that qualified me to understand the business model. But in all seriousness, what it did have was three separate streams of income: the money from the door, the money from the bar, the money from the girls, all at very high margins because it was a niche market. And opened a club in 2004. I was 23 years old, March 2004, and it hit the ground running. Also obviously I did some good stuff in there, but it was probably I would say it was probably the right time at the right place at the right time. Lap dancing was just starting to become a little more socially acceptable. Spearmint Rhino, Stringfellows were quite well known in the UK, and I was 23 at the time as well. So
every guy's dream.
Well, every guy's dream, and we'd get a lot of press off the fact that I was a 23-year-old doing this, as opposed to a gangster or a faceless corporation. And over the next 5 years, grew that lap dancing business to be the biggest operator in the UK. And also opened bars, clubs, shops, restaurants, and I did it all with borrowed money. Again, something I didn't know anything about at the time. But when I opened the first club and run out of capital, I got introduced to some finance brokers, to some small ticket money lenders, and learned how to borrow. Well, not learn how to borrow money off them, but used them to borrow money. Then learned how to borrow money, and I say learned because I do think raising capital is a skill. But ultimately, what I did was build a debt-ridden mess over the next 5 years. And whilst it looked big, and whilst we were turning over plenty of money, it was absolutely sinking in debt, expensive short-term capital. And the credit crunch of 2008 kicks in. For anyone who's old enough to remember it, or well read enough to read about it, and I went spectacularly bankrupt. I mean, June 2008. I was still riding high, 999 credit rating, lots of businesses, lots of assets. 8 weeks later, 10 weeks later, all of the businesses were in administration, and I'd been made personally bankrupt. And I kind of woke up in September, I think it was the 8th of September 2008, and woke up, and the day before I had all these businesses, and the next day I had nothing. And it does really happen that fast. And I guess I was back to square one. Although, just as an aside, people, when I tell this story now, people always say, what was it like to lose everything? And it's something that I've only really thought about more so over the last year or two. But when they go, what was it like to lose everything? Looking at it now, I didn't lose everything. I lost my money. I still had my knowledge, my experience, my contact base, my network, everything else. All I'd lost. And I say all. I don't say it flippantly, because ultimately it was me that had lost the money, and I would rather not have lost it. But the money was a very small part of the bigger picture, and I guess it taught me very much where that expression, "Your first million's your hardest," comes from. Because when I then started to rebuild from 2008 onwards, I made a lot more money than I'd ever had before, a lot quicker than I'd had it before, because I knew all of the shortcuts. Not so much I knew the shortcuts to take, because I don't want to use the word shortcut in a way like we're cutting corners. But I guess doing it without the knowledge means you take the long road.
Of course.
And
due to your experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So kind of fast forward after that, I started working as a finance broker, went from broker to lender, started to raise money again from investors so I could lend that money to small businesses, and collapse the last 15 years into one. My core business now is raising capital, lending it to small businesses, and really providing a mixture of service of lending businesses money, but also providing support that they wouldn't get from a different kind of lending institution, from a bank. I always say I was a borrower before I was a lender. I was a business operator before I was a business owner. So I very much know what it's like to be on both sides of that table. I can talk to a customer with a completely different level of perspective than probably anyone else can, because a lot of the time people think they need money, and maybe sometimes they do, but a lot of the time that money is there to plug a hole, to almost not deny but hide from the real problem. And the real problem maybe isn't that you need money, it's the reason. Why do you need money? Have you fucked something up? Are your sales not high enough? Are your costs too high? Have you got debt problems? Whatever it may be. And we tend to provide much more of a holistic service than just, yes, here's a quick business loan.
So your journey...
I didn't do it very quickly, did I? I should have learned by now
it sounds like an incredible journey, just not all sure. Highs. It's highs and lows, but like you say, it's taught you a lot of experience. Without the lows, we don't
know the highs exist.
And is this something that you rebuilt yourself in the UK, or is it in Dubai, or where did this journey?
Everything was back in the UK.
Okay.
Listen, I've been in Dubai for 4 years. That's a separate story in itself. But no, all the business I did do, and almost even mainly today, is in the UK.
And what made you pick yourself back up once you had lost everything? What was the motivation? Because sometimes it isn't just the chase for money. It is something else that, in mindset, or what was it that...
I mean, look, in terms of specifically tangible motivation, I had a 1-year-old daughter who needed paying for. I had a wife and a mortgage and a house. Those, someone needed to put food on the table, and me pitying myself wasn't going to help that. So there was a practicality to needing money. I think there was a second level to it as well, where I always say I was never born to be poor. So I wanted to go and make that money again for myself, but also I guess my motivation is doing things and creating things and building things. And listen, I'm not saying I don't suffer on the bad days. I don't suffer on the down days. I do, like anyone else, probably less than most, because I look at those down days as almost like built with a level of tolerance and resilience that's, like anything. I guess, if you watch a boxer in the ring getting punched in the face, and you think it must be utterly horrendous for them, but the reality is those guys have learnt how to be punched in the face hundreds and thousands of times for years and years and years, so they genuinely get to the point where they don't feel it, or they know how to do with it. Now and again, some big punch from from an unknown, like a boxer they've never boxed before, might come along, and that jolts them, and that gives them a surprise, and there's a bit of new learning to be done then. But that, I guess, the repetitive jab, 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 they just know how to deal with it. And I think that there was a lot of that for me. So I think because I've got that resilience, I just want to, I want to get on and build things and solve problems and do things. So, there was the tangible side of the money, but the intangible, if that's the word, where, I'm not just going to sit at home and watch telly. I'm certainly not going to go and work for anyone else. And, taking pity on myself all day is neither going to get me paid nor make me happy. So
I think the easy route, I mean, I don't know if it's the easy route, but most people would choose to go back to a 9 to 5. This entrepreneurial journey, I think, when it's an unknown, picking yourself back up.
I think it depends where your head's at as an individual, because I would disagree and say, well, that's the hard route, but then it depends who you are. And obviously, a lot of the kind of business influencers on Instagram nowadays, talk about that, the concept that having money or building a business is hard, not building a business is hard, choose your hard.
Yeah.
And I guess there's probably some of that comes into it, that okay, getting a 9 to 5 may be easier insofar as safer, that I'll know I'll have some money by the end of this month, than going and building a business where I might not get paid that month.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'd want to blow my brains out. I mean, going bankrupt and walking home to the wife and kid and having no money I guess neither scared me nor made me depressed in any way. Tell you what, waking up in the morning and putting a suit and tie on to go and work for somebody else in their business, that would be fucking depressing.
I totally understand that.
But again, that's not that I'm right and someone else is wrong. It's horses for courses.
Their own,
You've got to know yourself.
It's your end goal, of course. Everyone has their own journey, but it sounds incredible that you did pick yourself back up and were able to prove yourself, and it was obviously a lesson for yourself at the end of it and reaching your own end goals. And I think that's why I kind of wanted to do this podcast, because I feel like we don't hear a lot about successful people's failures and their journey along the way. And I think it's important for entrepreneurs to know that there is that picking yourself up every day. There is that motivation mindset. I mean, in terms of what you can teach us in terms of mindset, is there any practices that you do for your own, to keep yourself in a certain headspace?
I'm not I'm not a meditator, I'm not a journaler, I'm not into that stuff. And again, I'm not saying that it's rubbish, and I've never done it. It's not really for me. I mean, in terms of things I do to keep myself fresh and the brain working, I do a lot of exercise. And I love my saunas, I love my ice baths, but I do those as, let's say, something I enjoy, not one of these Instagram, I got to take an ice bath at 5 a.m. and wake up before everybody else and all that. I'm not good in early mornings because I stay up late at night.
Okay.
I do kind of tend to get up early. I've got a baby now and other things that get me out of bed, but don't get me wrong, when I get out of bed I'm tired. And I might have a nap in the afternoon, but I don't have any particular, let's say, practices of mindset. But I do think being in, I'm not saying I got a six-pack or anything, but I'm not in terrible shape. I don't really drink much. Again, I'm not moralizing. I just know that if I drink a lot, then I'm going to feel like shit. And the feeling like shit is not worth the drinking the night before. So I don't drink much. I do a lot of exercise. I'm not a very good eater. I do like to eat shit. I do saunas, do ice baths, and that probably kind of keeps me in a good headspace. But in terms of, I guess, the actual business mindset, I guess it's going into situations knowing that, as I said a minute ago, without lows there are no highs. That to get success there has to be failures and trials and tribulations along the way. But we can make that easier by learning from mistakes. And obviously I've learned from my own mistakes over the years. But nowadays we can learn a lot from other people's mistakes. Whether that's from books, from courses, from following business people and influencers on Instagram or YouTube or wherever it may be. But I think I can't overstate the importance of learning, the importance of having mentors, of having people to kind of hold your hand and show you the shortcuts and help you go down the path more trodden. But yeah, you know.
What about, I mean, in terms of your not shortcuts, but any secrets? I think that's what most entrepreneurs will want to know is what's your key to success? Is there any tips that you can give us
I
learning that, journey that you've had?
So I think a secret, you want to call it a secret, following on from, saying about learning from other people and from mentors, is really, the power of partnerships. And again, people probably get put off by the word partnership because it would typically imply, a 50-50 ownership of a business venture together. But I think I use the word partnership in the loosest sense of the word, of having any kind of interaction with someone. Maybe it means equity in a business. Maybe it means nothing more complicated than working with someone. But I think it's very important to realise that you'll go a lot further, a lot faster with people and with assistance than, I say assistance, let's say with co-motivated people than you will do on your own. And I spent all my younger years very, whether it's egotistically or greedily or selfishly, wanting to own everything and control everything, thinking, I'm the big dog, I'm the owner, I want all this stuff. And I look at where I'm at now, and I, have 10 times, 50 times what I had back then, but, not really one business where I own 100% of it. Some of them might be 5% of this or 10% of that, or others might just be me introducing to someone. But, knowing that other people are the key to getting what you want and getting it quicker.
So loads of collaborations,
partnerships, joint ventures, mentors, teachers, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
But just the fact that other people, everything, two things, everything you want somebody else has already got. How do you need to learn how to go and ask them for it, and anything you want to do, somebody else probably already knows how to do it. Because unless in the rarest of situations, like an Elon Musk, for example, who's inventing something completely new and uncharted in any sense of the word, there is nothing really that any of us are going to want to know that someone else doesn't already know, to build that already hasn't been built before. You're in Dubai doing real estate. You're not reinventing the wheel. You want to go and make money in real estate in a town, city where there's plenty of people who've made lots of money from real estate. What do you want to sit there asking yourself, how do I go and do this for? Go and find the people who've already done it. What is the model? And the model probably won't be very when you know the answer. It won't be a very complicated model, because models normally aren't. It's just that you don't know it.
Yeah.
Or probably more likely you do know it. You just think it sounds like too much like hard work,
it is a lot.
and don't want to do it. It's like, I guess, the old fitness adage. How do I get a body like yours? Eat well, exercise, and go to sleep, drink plenty of water.
I mean, I think there's a lot of theories out there about hard work versus mindset. I keep hearing 80% mindset, 20% hard work. I mean, it depends on which theories you want to listen to, but what's your opinion on that?
I mean, I think it's a bit of everything. I always hate the expression, work smarter, not harder, because to me that implies laziness. I mean, yes, obviously work smarter, not stupider, but why not work smart and work hard? I don't think anything great has ever been achieved without hard work. Yes, there's always those magically, naturally talented people who've won the lottery in whatever that means to them, whether it's a footballer who's particularly gifted who never really has to do much training, or whether it's a businessman who just happened to have a good idea and be in the right place at the right time. But they are the one in a billion. 99.9% of the people you see who are successful have got stories of trials and tribulations along the way. They've worked hard. You may see them now working smarter and doing 4-hour days or taking 6-week holidays where they can turn the phone off with their families. But that's not happening on day one, on year 5. It's a long hard battle.
So going back to what you said about collaboration, I mean, Dubai is the place for networking. How important is it to build relationships, and is there any tips you can give in terms of building the trust? Because I know trust is, in terms of genuine trust.
I think this comes down to that whole problem around shortcuts again. that, how do you build a good network? How do you build great relationships? When I say the answers, they won't be complicated, but they aren't going to give you 100 great relationships tomorrow. So what I'm going to say is, you need to build the relationships before you need them. Just like like with a bank account, you've got to deposit something in it before there's something to withdraw. So you need to give before you receive, and I'm very much play the long game. I mean, when I do my networking, I'm just building a great network of people that I know at some point may be useful, should turn into business. But if neither of those two things happen, then it's just great people to have in my network, but never. So I'm not going to say never am I trying to be transactional early on, because there's always situations, like I don't know if take you trying to network with me to do a real estate deal with. If I tell you that I am hot to trot today and I want to go and buy something in Dubai, well then of course there's a deal there to be done. But if I tell you I'm not there to buy anything right now, and you start harassing the life out of me with investment opportunities, and all you're going to do is burn the bridge and turn me off. If you take the view that, well, listen, Matt's probably going to have some interest in real estate, he's obviously got a few quid, I'll build a relationship with him, because at some point, if and when he does want to buy real estate, he's going to think of me. And you know what? And whilst I know him, I'll probably meet some other people through him who might want real estate. Yeah, and if you take that relaxed, non-pushy, long-term view, then then things ultimately will come. But I guess what we were talking about before, and none of these are quick fixes for tomorrow, and it's so important to have the patience. But again, what I've also learned as well is we're impatient because we think we haven't got long. I mean, listen, I've been in business for 25 years, and if I look back at some of my biggest mistakes, they've all been around rushing to do something, taking shortcuts that have ultimately, or being greedy because I wanted too much too soon. I look at it now and think, well, hang on, what could you achieve in 25 years? I mean, you could take over the world in 25 years. I'm still only 43. I've got my, I am, let's say it joking, but I still really am a spring chicken. I've still got my whole life ahead of me, and I could, I could have played the longest of long games for 25 years. Yeah. So, just people, and then look, Instagram, social media doesn't help, because obviously every post now is, hey, look, I was broke yesterday and now I'm driving a G-Wagon, which, is total bollocks 99% of the time, but unfortunately it makes and I'm not saying there shouldn't be the degree of fake it till you make it. I mean I'm guilty of it before, pretty guilty of it now, but I think if I was doing a fake it till you make it would probably be more of an investment than a flex, if that makes sense. Like not spending every penny I've got on a fancy watch just to look rich, and then not being able to pay the rent. I mean, that would be that would just be a utterly mindless flex. But I don't know, buying a membership for the right club when you may not have the capital. I mean, I wouldn't see that as it might be a fake it till you make it, but that's more of an investment to put yourself in the proximity of people who you could grow a network with. But I mean, you talk about that kind of fake it till you make it, and that rushing. Listen, if I look back over the years, the money I've spent trying to impress people, whether I'm trying to impress them or whether I'm just trying to impress myself, but doing things I just didn't need to do, buying the 6th car when I wasn't even driving the other 5, and all that kind of stuff, where that's that mentality that we get shoved down our throats on Instagram. I mean, I was doing it before Instagram even existed, but
but the return on investment was it there? Was it not there?
Oh, no, I mean, not on stuff like that. But then again, I always say, like my friends often say to me, don't you look back and regret that you bought, or regret when you wasted all that money on art, or bought those 3 cars, or whatever it may be. And I kind of cut the conversation short, but I say, look, it's such a pointlessly hypothetical conversation. And I normally take the view that everything that's happened historically has happened as an order of events. I don't say this in a spiritual way, but it's just a fact that anything that's happened historically has led me to where I am today. If I'm happy today, well then, box tick, job done. I can't look back and go, well, if I didn't buy that Ferrari, I'd have had another 100 grand, and if I'd have put that 100 grand at 9% interest for the last 15 years, well, it's a load of rubbish,
And when we talk about social media, how important is, maybe in terms of business, building your brand versus social media, how important is it for people now to
So somebody was asking me this question last night. I think that they're in investment management, and they've gotten interested in building content or creating content over the last couple of years, and so asking me what my strategy or what my view is. And as I was saying to them, I mean, brand will always beat no brand anytime. Now, whether that's personal brand or whether that's corporate brand, I think we all know well enough, whether it's as a business owner or whether it's as a consumer, the importance of that brand, and people say, oh, I don't need a personal brand. I don't want a personal brand because they misunderstand it, and I think people think personal brand and influencer is the same word and goes hand in hand. But I always try and explain to these people, look, you already have a personal brand. All a personal brand is what is somebody's perception of you when you're not in the room, or when you do walk into the room. What is somebody expecting, or how does somebody emotionally feel when you come through the door? And they already feel something about you anyway. For me, personal brand is really crafting that brand in a way that you make people feel how you want them to feel, as opposed to maybe how they already feel about you. And an online personal brand is effectively just the digitization of what's already going on offline. But an example I give recently, because it happened recently, is 4 or 5 months ago, I was going on a Zoom call with a couple of very senior guys from a bank back in England. There's a few of us on this call looking to do some business. I've never dealt with them before. I go on the Zoom, and before we start, the most senior guy on the call goes, Matt, I just want to say, I was looking into you, and I see you've got a podcast, and you did a podcast with a cricketer called Monty Panasai, because I'm a massive cricket fan. I really like Monty as well. And starts talking to me for literally 10 or 15 minutes while everyone else is just sat there twiddling their thumbs about Monty Panasar and podcasts and cricket. Now, when we then start to do some, I'm not saying that's a guaranteed way to get business done, but what I can guarantee you is that the perception of me in that room, the framing of me, my elevated status, is on a completely different level to anybody else who's in there. Does that mean that he's going to finance my shit business idea? Absolutely not at all. But what it certainly will do is open me doors that are not open for other people, and will accelerate my journey along the way.
No, brilliant. I mean, I've come across you a lot on YouTube. You are an influencer yourself. I mean, would you say, obviously I heard your interview with Dan Priestley the other day as well, and I think you talk about influencer versus key person of influence. I mean, what's the difference, and which one would you say you are?
I mean, I guess, well, I mean, Dan's got his answer to the question, which I guess that's his specialty. My view on it would be that influencer is probably seen more as a social media person talking to the macro, whereas a key person of influence may be more niche. An expert in a field, whether that's a CEO, a thought leader, whatever it may be, whereas an influencer would just be somebody that people look up to for no particular reason than they know who they are. Someone who's walked out of Love Island and starts selling a tooth whitening kit. But I guess there's a joining of the two, most certainly. I think I am I'm probably much more on the side of key person of influence than influencer. But I think if you can be a key person of influence and find a way to amplify that, whether that's through greater YouTube, Instagram, podcast, whatever it may be, then ultimately, the bigger the audience, the more success you'll get. And again, the person I was talking to last night, I was saying to him that one of my goals for 2025 with my team is much greater reach and dominance from my podcast, both audio and YouTube. And when he's asking me why, I said, listen, I can't tell you what I want to do with it when I've got that reach. But what I can guarantee you is that if I have a podcast with 3 million people a month listening to it, or 10 million YouTube videos, viewed every month, I guarantee you that there will be a way to monetize that audience in some way, And we've seen, people may not notice it, but we've seen it time and time again with the likes of Conor McGregor with his whiskey or whatever it is he had, or 50 Cent with his water product, and The Rock and all these guys, these celebrities. You've got massive audiences that can then parlay that audience into into doing something. So for me, there is just no downside to building brand and to growing an audience. And people will give the reason that, well, what about the bad things about you? Well, I mean, try not to do some bad things, I guess. But
but I think you've been quite transparent, and you've been the opposite to fake it till you make it with your no bollocks with Matt Haycox. It's a great branding, and you know what, you're quite very direct with it, which is quite refreshing compared to a lot of other podcasts that I hear.
I think, it was never so much a strategy. The name No Bollocks came long after we doing it. I mean, I can't particularly take credit for that. I was working with a US branding guy, and we were trying to find a point of difference to me. And I was never very good at describing to him who I was, and I was just saying, well, I'm kind of like any of the other business leaders or business influencers out there, but just with no bullshit.
Yeah.
And he's an American guy. He's like no bollocks. the Americans seem to say bollocks in a different way to us. He's like, no bollocks, Matt Haycox. No, I think we're gonna have to change your tone.
It's
but
great. It's very light-hearted, and it makes you laugh
that.
as someone looking onto it. In terms of what sets you apart, is there? This is more to do with your business journey. What do you think sets you apart from others? I know your social media is one of the things that you're trying to grow, but in terms of as a person, what can other entrepreneurs maybe try and learn from you in terms of not just mindset, but the things that you do, the actions you take? Is there anything that you can give us tips on?
I do the things that I like to do, which I think is very, very important. And again, when I say that, I don't mean that I only carry out the tasks that I want to carry out, but I'm involved in businesses that I like and that I understand. I ultimately want to be happy in all the things I do. I think when we talk about the definition of success, success is always solely tied to financial outcomes. And I can tell anyone, time and time again that, I know dozens, if not hundreds of people with much more money than I'll ever have, who all live the most miserable lives. I know plenty of people who are as good as, or I'd consider flat broke, who are smiling from ear to ear every day. And I know which of those two I'd rather say. Listen, if I had to pick one or the other, I know which I'd rather be, but I would rather be a smiling rich person than a smiling poor person. So I'm going off on a bit of a tangent from the kind of question that you asked me. But I think, what can I tell people? I'm hungry to learn. I spend, I don't really have many hobbies. I do the things. I go to work, hang out with my kids, like a bottle of wine with my mates now and again. But other than that, work or learning about something that's going to help me in work or help me better my life in some way, very much is my is my love and interest. You know, I mean, for me, and I'm not saying what's right or wrong for different people. You've got to do what makes you happy. But I couldn't think of anything more depressing than sitting in the pub, drinking pints, talking shit with people all day. But those people think that I'm boring, lying on the couch on an afternoon, you know, watching an educational podcast or whatever it may be. But I think, you know, a big part of my success is my desire to always be learning more and to always be trying to move myself forward. You know, I mean, I can always walk into most all of the teams in my business and say, oh, by the way, I was learning this at the weekend. Why don't we try this? I was learning that at the weekend. Why don't we try that? And ultimately, they're never doing that. And I think, listen, I'm not the head of that department. I'm not the head of that department, but I'm the one, you know, hungry to try the different things. And I have this conversation with a lot of people when they're talking to me about pay rises or where their career's going. I get to the point where I say, listen, you know, yes, as time goes on, you'll probably always get a bit more money, an inflationary link here or there. But other than that, you kind of had a ceiling. And unless you go and learn something materially different to bring me some substantial value in my businesses, you know, you're going to be capped at where you're at, and that, you know, that applies to everyone and everything. And so I think, you know, that that success for me is a big part of the fact that, you know, when I'm sat doing my sauna and ice bath, which I said at the beginning, I like to do it every day. I'm doing it with a podcast or an audio book in, you know, when I'm lying in bed at night. I'm not saying I never watch Netflix. I love a good box set or whatever. But, you know, I'm typically, you know, reading a book or, you know, taking a new course or whatever it may be. So I think, you know, constantly learning, constantly trying, not giving a fuck what other people say, and knowing that, you know, the end goal has got to be happiness, you know, regardless of everything else that's going on along the way.
So this journey of, you know, entrepreneurship, does it ever end? Do you ever feel like it's like, oh, I've achieved everything and that's it? Or is it always a what next, and the growth?
You ask me on different days, I'd give a different answer to how big that next step is. Being entrepreneurial, I think for me, in the widest sense of the word, is just in my blood. And you know, being an entrepreneur for me would be, you know, taking risk in return for reward, solving a problem, you know, fixing an issue. And I would never not be doing that till the day I'm dead. Does that mean that I want to spend the rest of my life, you know, being stressed 20 hours a day and building businesses? No, it doesn't. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. You know, I am. When people ask what I'm up to at the moment, it's actually not so much about growth, it's more about consolidation, because, you know, I look at the businesses that I have got, and I've spent, you know, 25 years being a bottleneck to too many things and spending too much time in the business and not on the business, etc. So would I like to be less reliant on things? Would I like to be would I like people to be less reliant on me for certain things? Would I like to be less stressed? Yes. Do I want to do that so that I can play golf all day? Absolutely not. I want to do it so I can concentrate on the things that I can either get more value from or add more value to. But I think, like, you know, if you're a footballer, for example, when you retire from playing professional football, I don't think you're ever going to hang your boots up and never kick a ball again. You know, you might want to spend time teaching the kids, or you might want to play in legends events, or, you know, or join a couple of five-a-side teams or something, because that football will always be in your blood. And for me, it's that, you know, it's the same thing with, you know, with being an entrepreneur. I love business. You know, I love solving people's problems or my own problems, or, you know.
No, it makes sense. I mean, it's more a passion than the chase for financial gain.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if I'm going to take stress, I want to get paid for it. But, you know, normally when I start doing something, then it's, the beginning's just more like, oh, well, that's interesting. How do we explore this road? Or how do we fix this thing that's been irritating me? Or it could be, this has been irritating me for a while. I found a solution. Can I monetize that in some kind of way? But it's never, I don't wake up and I think, oh, got to make 10 grand today, you know?
Yeah, no, of course. As someone who has achieved so much, how do you stay humble and grounded?
That's one question I can't. I guess I'm just a nice guy. What can I say?
So your ice baths and saunas or
No, no, I don't think it's any of that. I just, I guess, whilst on the one hand, I absolutely don't give the slightest toss what people think of me, I do think it's important to treat other people how I would like to be treated myself. I think, the money and the success has got nothing to do with being respectful, being respectful to other people. That doesn't mean letting other people get away with something they shouldn't do, or that doesn't mean, ultimately not getting what you want because you keep saying yes to everybody else. But I think, you can be hungry, aggressive, successful and wealthy and, still be a nice guy. That doesn't mean saying yes to every charitable case. That doesn't mean putting a tenner in the hands of every homeless person down the street that you walk to. But I think there's a right way to do things and a wrong way to do things.
So, just a bit of, going off topic a little bit, but just for those stuck in their comfort zones, which I'm sure we've all been there once or twice in our lives, what advice would you give to embrace change to create new opportunities for themselves?
I think you just got to accept that without change there won't be any growth. That whilst in a comfort zone, you may be comfortable, but nothing's getting better, nothing's changing, nothing's growing, and I think you've got to make a decision. Do you want to be comfortable now and regretful in the future, or do you want to challenge yourself now and be able to lie on your deathbed and say, I may have not got everything I wanted, but I did give it my all along the way.
And your mantra, I hear quite a lot about change your life, change your environment, change your life. What do you mean by that?
Well, I guess, look, we all know the expression of you are the sum of the five people that you spend the most time with, and but ultimately, we're all a product of our environment in some way. If you spend your time in fast food restaurants, you're gonna be fat. If you spend your time around idiots, you're gonna be be an idiot yourself. And I guess if you're not happy with where you are in life, that is directly a result of the actions taken before today, which is probably a direct result of of your circumstances, your location, and everything else. And if you want to get a different output, you've got to have a different input, and you just need to start taking a look around and saying, well, what can I change in my environment, in my personnel, etc. And I know often it sounds easier said than done, particularly when it comes to people, the people around you. But again, I was having this conversation the other day with someone that, look, if you're, I don't know, maybe you're poor, you're from a single parent background, your mates and the people around you are, your druggy cousins and your loser mates from school and stuff. I don't say that to be derogatory to them, but ultimately, if you want better, then they're not the people for you. And you may be in that position and think, well, I know that for me to get the best, I should be surrounded by Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, and Bill Gates, whatever it may be. And obviously, from there to there seems impossible, and the reality is probably is impossible. But the first steps you can make are maybe not getting great new people around you, but taking bad people away from you. And if you can't find some new positive influences, at least in the short term, remove some negative influences, because you will automatically rise a bit by that. Step away from the time spent with the druggy cousin or the loser mates. And yes, again, it might be very easy for me to go, oh well, come and live in Dubai around all these people, and when you're 19 years old and flat broke and living on a council estate in London, you might think, oh well, who's this idiot? That's never happening. Okay, that might not be happening tomorrow, but there's changes that we can all make, by the day, by the week, by the month, that will ultimately move us forward. And as they say, if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got. And if you want something different, something's going to have to change.
No, I totally understand that. That brings us on to if you can tell us a little bit about your move from the UK to Dubai and that transition. what made you move here? What's the difference in terms of obviously living in the UK versus living in Dubai?
So the move itself was just a pure accident. I was on a holiday. Literally yesterday was my 4-year anniversary, actually, 12th of December 2020. I came to Dubai for an 8-day holiday. I'd never been to Dubai. I was just doing a bit of COVID dodging back in England, and came here. And at the end of the 8 days, it wasn't like, oh, I need to live in Dubai. I mean, I probably did think, oh, I need to live in Dubai, but it wasn't so much on the tip of my thoughts. It was more that, hang on a minute, if I fly back to England today, I'm flying back into a lockdown. I don't want to do that. Okay, I'll do another week here and wait and see what happens with lockdown. And that I did a week and another week and another week. And I think, anyone can probably remember, I don't know what countries you're all in, but from anyone listening in England, I think from that December, it wasn't until March, I think, that we kind of became unlocked, or, certainly unlocked to any degree of worth coming back to England for. By that point, I was 3 months in, and I then started to see the benefits of Dubai, in terms of the network I was building here, the mindset of the people around. And like 4 years on, I couldn't imagine being anywhere else. I mean, people always say to me, well, are you going to be here forever? I don't know, but I'll be wherever opportunity and interest takes me. Right now, I can't see it being anywhere other than Dubai. But that said, I will move if I need to move, but I guarantee you I won't be moving back to England. No. Which is funny because the vast majority of my business is in England, but that is more from the fact that I've spent 20 odd years knowing and understanding the legal systems and the structures and everything else there, and I don't really want to have to learn it again in another country. But okay, business is business, but my core business is, for example, raising finance, lending money. I mean, they're specific legal systems and things that you need to learn. And whilst it works for me in the UK, I'm happy to stick with it. But I can do business in the UK without living in the UK. I just find it so depressing when I go back. I mean, I've got an 18-year-old daughter back there, and she is kind of my reason for going back as opposed to work. It's not like I'm going for work and seeing her. I go to see her and then tack a little bit of work on while I'm there. But if she wasn't in England, I don't know if I'd ever set foot in the place again.
Oh wow, no, I totally understand. I'm from London myself, so.
And it's funny because, listen, I hate to be, I don't want to be one of those England bashers or any country bashers. And, when I came here initially, and people would be always going on, or even before I came here, you'd always have people going, oh, don't you, Leeds is shit, I want to go to Manchester. And the people in Manchester, oh, Manchester is shit, I want to go to London. But there's just a completely different mindset and culture back there of negativity and, pushing people down rather than pulling them up. And
weather makes a difference, I think.
The weather does make a difference. I mean, it's funny because on the one hand, you go, if you ask me what's wrong with the country, I don't want to start saying, oh, the weather's shit. But what I can tell you is that waking up with the sun on my back, it certainly does put you in a better mindset, to kind of crack on with the day. I mean, listen. Do we need to come to Dubai for the sun? No, you can go to many places for the sun. But I do think, kind of tangenting off from that most people would probably be better off living somewhere other than where they are. That's not an England comment, by the way. Anyone listening? That's a global comment that, ultimately, as we were saying a minute ago, if you want something different to what you've got, then you need to do something different to what you're doing. And if you are living in a little small town in Wales, are you going to find the best career opportunities? Are you going to find the hottest girls? Are you going to find the best coach to teach you football? No, you're not. So if you want something, you need to move yourself to the proximity, to the locale of where that's happening. I think invariably most people could get more out of life and get closer to where their dream destinations are if they moved from where they are. And again, that doesn't mean move countries, move the other side of the world. It could be moving 20 miles down the road, 300 miles down the road. But I think invariably people find excuses to stay where they are. And again, you might say, oh, it's easy for you to say it's an excuse, but I've got a job, or I've got a family, or my parents have always been from here. But none of these things, are really an anchor that has to stop you ever moving. Yes, it might slow people down. When I moved here, I was a single guy. Yes, I had a daughter, but she lived with her mum, so it was never really an issue for me. But if you've got wives, kids, jobs, kids can move schools.
Of course.
Jobs can be found in different countries. I think people just want to stay in the comfort zone.
That's what it is. I
don't want
think
to take that
comfort.
risk.
I think being out of your comfort zone is what builds growth. And obviously, yeah, you do get used to it in your home environment. Sometimes for me, I moved because my energy, it was like in that stagnant place where, yes, I had achieved. However, I just knew there was so much more. And I think it's hard to move environment. However, it's probably the easiest way to start a blank canvas as well. So it is that being uncomfortable. It does push you. It's a bit like going out of your comfort zone, out of the box, thinking a bit bigger.
But I think, for anyone, my advice to anyone moving to another town, country, whatever is, you will settle pretty quickly as well, because people will be welcoming. Go and join a gym, join a club, have your colleagues from work, whatever it may be. As long as you put that effort in, you'll find your feet. You'll get a friendship circle pretty quickly.
Yeah. I mean, you've got this, I think, an article called 21 Reasons to Move to Dubai.
Mm-hmm.
What's your top reason personally, and has it evolved since you've come to Dubai?
So let's say my top reason, from my own selfish perspective, if you want to call it that, is the network here. The opportunity to meet such world-class people in everything. And I say everything because it's not just about money or business. It's the best people in gyms, the best people in massaging, the best the best people in sport, whatever it may be. There's a massive collection of world-class people here to level me up and to help me in my business and help me in my life. I think as a new parent again, the safety aspect is enormous. I mean, listen, my eldest in English is 18. I mean, I can tell you recently has been 16 or something. I'll walk around town with her, and I've always got my wits about me. Like we'll be in River Island. She's cheap to run. She likes River Island, and sometimes I'll be stood next to her and I'll turn to look at something and turn back and she's not there. And my heart stops. Where is she? In Dubai, since I'll be in a restaurant and someone will come over to the table. Oh, your baby's so cute. Can I say hello? So take her for a walk, mate. Please give me a 10-minute break. And literally, someone would pick the baby up and take her for a wander in the restaurant or outside, wherever it may be. And whenever that happens, I always laugh with my girlfriend. I mean, she's from Finland, so probably a similar setup there to England, maybe not as bad as England. But we say, can you imagine letting some random? Well, I wouldn't let some random person look at my baby. Never mind them take them for a walk. But it's just so safe. You leave your wallet in a taxi here, it gets returned to your house before you've even realised you've done it. And we talk. It's a shame because we talk about safety as this great thing in certain areas, or particularly Dubai. But I also think it's a bit of a shit situation when we have to talk about safety as a great benefit. I mean, it should be a given,
of course,
but it isn't. I think as you get older, you start to value or appreciate these things more. But there's so many great reasons to be in Dubai. The sun and the tax-free status are an immediate and obvious one, but you can get past that quite quickly because there's lots of places you can get some sun in the world, and there's lots of places with more interesting tax statuses than the UK. But for me, it really is that collection of everything else, and also the fact that we live in a city, in a country that's gone from a lump of sand in the desert to an international world-class metropolis in 50 years. As a fellow Brit, you and I both know that we can't build a fucking roundabout in 50 years. And look at what's been achieved, and ultimately that ethos just filters down all the way. And I would rather be surrounded by that to be challenged. I mean, every day, it's funny because people will look at me and think about that guy with all that success and all that money. Listen, believe me, I'm skint in Dubai. I'm an absolute broke nobody, and that's say a positive, nice motivation to me, not an English jealousy motivation, which is where, you know, some back in the UK, you know, people are looking at everything. Oh, look at that bastard in the Ferrari. You know, let's go and smash it. You know, smash his car in or break his legs. Here it's more like, you know, these people are making me hungry to want to do more, and I don't want to be jealous of these guys. I want to go and learn from them, and I want to wake up tomorrow and think, you know, I don't want to be the person who everyone's going, oh God, he's got a 27-meter boat, you know, now it's time to rest and do everything. I'm the guy thinking my 27-meter boat is like a dinghy. This is the boat that the big boats use to go and collect the room service from, and you know, this is the country to you know, to make that happen.
Going back to your life and your business journey, if you could give one piece of advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Well, I think we talked about it earlier really as well, which was, you know, to not be in such a rush. I think to not be in such a rush, and to value partnerships, collaborations, as opposed to trying to hog everything and hog the limelight. I mean, listen, for other people, I could also really hammer on again about learning. Now, I've never not been a learner, but that said, I wasn't an active learner in my 20s. I wasn't closed to it, like, you know, as in most of the people I would look at, you know, who would never want to be anywhere near a book or whatever, but I wasn't going out there actively looking for it, but I would certainly be open-minded to know that if somebody had something I want, I would ask them how they've got it, so I could learn from it. But I think as I hit my 30s, I became a lot more active about that. But I think, you know, learn, don't be in a rush, and build a great network, because you're going to need some people to take you all the way to where you want to get to.
So, out of everything that you have achieved, which seems like quite a lot along the way, what's your proudest achievement out of everything?
I think cheesy as it is, it's what goes on at home. It's the kids. It's the kids. You know, and I think as well, you know, it really reminds you of what the important bits are not. And again, I know as well as anybody that you've got to have some money to be able to do many of the things that you want to do, even if that is just to remove the stress of thinking, how do I pay the bills at the end of the month? You know, yes, we've got to have that level of money. Do we all need private jets and mansions around the world? Not at all. But, you know, we need a base level of money. But after that, you know, when I'm laying on a couch on a Saturday afternoon eating Maltesers with my 18-month-old baby, and, you know, for me having the best time, you know, with no work, with no Ferraris, with no fancy Namos restaurants, and a kid who doesn't even know what money is, by the way. She wants chocolate and daddy. You know, they're the proud times. They're the happy times. Does that mean I want to do that 7 days a week? No, you know, not at all. And again, I'm not telling someone how to parent, but and what's right or what's wrong. But I get bored with my kids, just like they get bored with me, and I want to go off and do the things for me. You know, that whether it's the gym, whether it's to work, whether it's going to a poker game with the boys or whatever. But ultimately, if I had to pick only one thing, then you know, it's what I've achieved with the kids. And, you know, I look at my eldest, you know, 18 years old, in an grown up in an environment. You know, I mean, let's call it what it is. Our dad ran strip clubs. Our dad's been a colourful character, to say the least. You know, I've been aggressive. I've been spoilt. I've been many things. And she's absolutely good as gold. Never had a crossword in her life. You know, everybody comes up to me and say, you know, your daughter is an angel, she's so golden. And I always say, you know, like, for me, that's the best thing I can hear, because people always go, how the fuck is she your kid? and you know, I laugh in jest, not because I think I'm a bad guy, but I mean, listen, I don't think anyone expected my daughter, after 18 years of being my daughter, to come out how she has done. So I guess, listen, all credit to her mum as well. But you know, they're ultimately the things that really matter when it all comes down to it.
I'm finally just wanted to know about, I mean, going forward, if you want to look back on your life, what do you want your legacy or your impact to be, to leave the world they say.
I,
Have you not thought that far ahead?
I think, if I was to say what was I want to be written on my tombstone, it would really be on the lines of, he was a guy with a smile on his face that that did what he wanted, and helped the people that need it. I think, when we talk about legacies, I mean, we're here for such a speck of time. Such a microscopic speck of time that I almost kind of can't. The people leaving legacies for me are the Winston Churchills and the Benjamin Franklins of the years before me, and I can't even put myself, on a similar level or stage. But I just think, as long as the people that remember me as a guy who tried his hardest, did his best, and made a few people smile along the way, then that's enough for me.
No, thank you. Thank you for your time today, Matt.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. What an incredible journey you've had. And there's a lot that we can learn as entrepreneurs from your journey as well. And I think the main thing for me I've taken away is changing your environment can change your life, definitely, on many factors, not just the business journey, but mindset, energy. And I think it's not just about business all the way, as you've spoken about. It's a lot about your contentment and happiness in what you do.
The business is the tool, the money's the tool. I think, and it's great if you can love and do that. Like I say, I love the money, I love the business, but it's got to be the tool for all the other stuff.
No, fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Wow, what an incredible conversation today with Matt Haycox. From the key differences between Dubai and the UK to his insights on entrepreneurship, Matt has shared so much actionable advice and inspiration for anyone looking to succeed in business and life. What stood out to me the most was his change your environment philosophy. It's clear that Matt's success isn't just about business, it's about adaptability, mindset, and truly embracing new opportunities. Matt, thank you so much for taking the time to share your journey and wisdom with us today. I know our listeners will walk away with fresh perspectives and renewed motivation. If you found this episode valuable, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, keep striving for success. And remember, you have the power to create your own opportunities.